My first role model was my mother. My father died when I was 2. She dedicated her whole life to me. She had to work and bring me up. She did it totally selflessly, as I now realise, and I look back, even to the point then looking after my little boy until she died. And really, it never crossed my mind, because she had always worked, other than that I would work and would have a career. She totally supported me without pushing me and helped me to live whatever my dream was. My next role model was a Jewish woman, Dame Rose Heilbronn, who was the first female High Court judge and QC. And in Liverpool, when we used to go on the bus, my mum would say, tell me all the stories of this beautiful and amazing woman, Rose Heilbronn. And I had the great privilege about 20 years ago of sitting with her as an old lady that time and holding her hand and crying my eyes out, even now, telling her, as a working class girl brought up in a council house, how knowing about her made me think, yes, as a woman, as a girl, I can do this as well. And she had to overcome far greater barriers, both those days as being Jewish and also being a woman, to achieve her dream. And she was also a wonderful wife and mother. And I think that was a great inspiration for me. My third role model was actually the mother of one of my school friends, Dr. Peggy Norris, who at 22 was one of the first doctors into the death camps in Germany, and then dedicated her life for issues that she believed in, which in her case was fighting euthanasia and abortion, because of what she had seen in the death camps of humanity being devalued, at the same time as being a doctor, bringing up 6 children and whatever. And again, me going to her house as a young girl, and seeing what she was doing made you think, as a woman, you could make a difference and still combine it with being a devoted wife and mother, because women want both things. We want it all. And it's not easy to achieve, but they did that. And in current society, it would be people like Harriet Harman, people like Camilla Batcangeli, people that continue to inspire to fight their lives for the rights of women here and abroad. There is nothing esoteric and intellectual about human rights, and in particular human rights for girls and women. From before they're even born, their human rights are denied in many parts of the world, where they are selected for abortion before they're born in their millions, just by the fact of being a girl. They don't have equal access to food in places of scarce resources. We know that they are denied their universal right to education. And in many countries, in particular the country that Nazir and I love so much, Pakistan, they can be killed and maimed for even seeking that education. They require, and we are obliged to give them, their right to reproductive health education, their right for their mothers to not die in childbirth in their millions because there is no health service for them. The people who most suffer in war zones for the denial of their human rights, in particular I have in mind right now the millions of women and girls that are suffering because of the Syrian conflict, and obviously most obvious in all our minds right now, the 200 young girls in Nigeria whose human rights are being denied by them being abducted by Boko Haram because basically they were at school and that they are just pawns that can be used in their assault. So there is no level upon which this is an intellectual pursuit. It's about real women's lives throughout the world. Without the right to justice, to everybody, access to justice, equality, lack of corruption, individuals cannot thrive, societies cannot thrive. People live in misery and inequality. Economics doesn't develop properly, and people's lives, people without access to justice. If you can't protect yourself from war, from violence within the home, even a right to who you marry, if you haven't got that, if you can't go to court if you have a dispute because the judges are corrupt, the lawyers are corrupt. And I've seen it because I've had the privilege of travelling all over the world, and I see where, and it's a constant fight even in this country. It's a thing that can slip away very, very quickly. So justice and equality within the home, that everybody has a right to be respected within the home, then within communities, then within society, and then between countries, because obviously that's what causes wars. So if you have, laws are no good in themselves, they've got to be put into effect and they've got to be just laws. But without that, basically you have nothing.
What is the greatest challenge you had to overcome?
Probably class more than gender. I think there is still, I come from a working class family. I grew up in, as I say, in a council house because of the death of my father. Had fantastic opportunities for education. I'm that generation. Sherry Blair and I are the same year at college, where because of the bringing into force of the Sexual Discrimination Act, I think doors were automatically open to us that we weren't aware would have been closed several years before. But I think this society is still class driven. There is still, the power at the top is still in those who come from certain backgrounds and went to certain types of schools which I was able to access for my own children. And I think that's probably been the greatest barriers that I've had. And it's still very, very difficult combining your career with bringing up your children. That for men and women now, it is still a huge problem in the West that we still haven't overcome or got that balance right. And it's, was a struggle for me. It's one of the reasons I became a judge. I think I was the youngest in the country when I did. I was only 40 because I had small children, and it combined, I was able to give them more attention than when I was a barrister. So, but nowadays judges can sit part-time, lawyers work part-time. That would have been unheard of in my generation. We were doing men's jobs, we had to act like men. Working for human rights is the most wonderful blessing which enhances our lives and the lives of our children, who we're able to enjoy what we have. And in this country, we are so blessed, and we should never forget that. And for me, this honour is really for the women throughout the world who, unlike us, in fighting for human rights, and I think of places like Afghanistan and Pakistan, the Sudan, by doing that every day, they put their lives at risk, which we don't have to do. For us, it's a wonderful thing that makes our lives grow. For them, they literally, for themselves and their entire families, are risking daily annihilation for fighting for human rights. So this is just a little bit of how important the battle is, and that battle must go on. And for the next generation, if in any way we can be role models so that the girls in universities here and throughout the world who follow on from us can carry that on, and so things are not as bad, and Eleanor Roosevelt's dream is brought to fruition in this century. Thank you very much.